Hey everybody, what's up? So let's continue on the flashcard app. If I could get something working today, that would be awesome. I will admit it took me longer to get simulator working than I expected, and maybe this is a bigger project than I thought. But let's see. Pretty sure I'm gonna need a Claude. Close other tabs. Come over here. Okay. Sometimes I ask for help outside of the IDE. I would like an MD file which gives high-level data about what environment, language, versions, etc. we are using. Since most my development is in the IDE, we should probably mention that as well. I assume this would best live outside agents. Your call. TechStack.md sounds good to me. All right. So I need to get Git Bash open. Change directories. Not C. Why do I keep doing that? Code Conacore app. All right. I have a feeling it's probably fine. Okay, this is exactly the kind of information which could be useful outside. God, that's annoying. All right, so let's collapse this. And let's open in Explorer. Sweet. Okay, so git status. You see, more things changed than I thought. So git add git commit dash m add tech stack git status git add git commit add tech stack. Okay, sweet. So now it should be clean, and come over here and we will give Claude our context. So all MD files, this is our context. I have copied MD files from my project for context. I am about to begin adding real features. First, before I start, do you have any questions about what my project is or what I am trying to do? All right. So I think that these MD files give the scope of my project pretty clearly, actually. But I want to make sure. So maybe there's some important piece of information that's missing. Distilling critical ambiguities before implementation begins. Come on, it's just slow enough that it's kind of annoying. That's okay, I'll sip on my coffee here. There's a character in my book who's always sipping on coffee. Then another character freaks out on her and says that she's pretending to be a sociopath. I'm not sure she's pretending. Oh, sorry, spoiler. All right. 7 critical schema and design ambiguities. Oh, okay, this might be more of a pain in the ass. than I thought. Says per file unit can be either a wrapper or a bare array. That's two shapes of the same loader. Pick one as canonical. Make the other one a load time error and retrofit any existing files. Otherwise, your Kotlin serialization classes either get ugly or silently tolerate inconsistent data. Unit.json versus manifest.json. Hold on. All right. Where is it? Unit.json. How do I jump to it and open in Explorer? That's exactly what I want. For number one, hiragana manifest.json. Open in Explorer. Oh my god, I have too many windows open and it's confusing me. You go away. Here are my units and manifest.json. I am not 100% sure on what the spec says, but these are the formats I wanted to use. Okay. Unit item ID uniqueness. With composite key, what happens when two items in the same unit has the same JP string? Plausible for homographs and Kana and Ziply. We would simply not allow two items with the same Japanese string. It is literally impossible since there is perfect parity of JP string and MP3 file, and obviously you can't have two identically named files either. Please note that this is small in comparison to other filters I have used for importing Japanese curriculum. Such as filtering non-phonetic Kana-based words and unvoiced syllables. Okay, 3. Where does disambiguation text live? The testing checklist expects disambiguation to render conditionally on cards, but the item schema shows lists. JP I showed you an example without disambiguation. My manifest.json from the words units are quite large. But let me find a single example. Let's see here. So we want manifest.json, right? Open in Explorer, go up, hiragana words. Don't do that. Okay, so disambiguation. Qualifier, yeah. All right, okay, so here is a qualifier example from an object taken from a JSON array in the hiragana unit. Okay. 4. All right, what do type qualifier and good for flashcards and Kana count actually drive? I can guess. Kana unit probably powers also review the Kana in this words. Where? Damn it, I lost my place. Doesn't store dead data or silently fail to use it. Okay, those are going to keep beeping. I'm sorry, hold on. Yeah, the other day I had to throw some fish away because I forgot that it was defrosting, and so yeah, timers. So it's in the oven, and I will be interrupted in 15 minutes. So whatever, or 16 or something. I don't know. Whatever. Let's focus. Focus. What do type qualifier, good for flashcards, Kana units? Session Builder skips this. You're right to question good for flashcards. By the time the app sees these, they should all be true. When I originally made my curriculum, there were 4,000 words, exactly 2,000 hiragana, 2,000 katakana, and then I incrementally whittled them down to 1070 combined before adding individual kana. Right now, I'm not using kana units for anything, but it is reasonable. Let's not confuse it. Okay. Kana units will prevent the UI from having to guess or infer what kana is available inside of a word. So the user can click, how do I pronounce this character, if they get confused. And I may renege on my earlier position that this remains untracked, unscored, since it is possible that specific kana might be troublesome for a student and merit additional review. We should probably remove that hard requirement that it is never scored or tracked. As for the others, I assume the example from the hiragana words unit should make it clear, but feel free to ask additional questions if not. I agree, kana count is probably not helpful, but it's not hurting anything. All right, 5. Okay, scheduler inference, full history or just level? The signature and agents You're trading a cheaper common case for future-proofing one strategy that doesn't exist yet. Worth deciding deliberately rather than by accident in step 5. I am concerned about overhead in storing full history, not during administration, but during output to export. I may opt for simple counters, times right, times long, current, level, and last administration. But this will probably need to be duplicated for each mode. Mode being, Japanese audio to English, Japanese text to English, Japanese text to Japanese audio. I'll have to think about these modes and what makes sense. The point of the app is to force users to read Kana instead of relying on audio cues or Romaji. But I don't expect users to start off knowing the words either, which leads to needing multi-stage pass. Page pass to learn. Okay. 6. Level floor on wrong answers. Drops level not past 0. Is the floor 0 or 1? And does wrong at level 8 drop by 1, reset to the floor, or halve? Affects your step 5 unit tests directly. I honestly haven't decided on a scoring metric yet. Typically, when I make a flashcard problem, I maintain levels as powers of as floating point numbers, where the level is intended to be used as a power of E to calculate seconds before next administration. But I have not strictly determined how we measure how we adjust, particularly when it is wrong or when it is administered early. I want to avoid accidentally inflating or over punishing. One particular problem is badgering students who have a mental block on a single word, making the whole app unenjoyable. Because it's not considering the human psychology aspect. I am open to clever ideas, but once a word has advanced intuitively, what am I trying to say? But as a general rule, if a word has advanced past, say, 2 to 3 day interval, it should never go below a 24-hour repetition interval. That's what my gut says. Because even if you blink, it's still in the brain somewhere. Unlike things which have never finished. If it goes past, say, a 30-day interval, it should never go below a 24-hour repetition interval. Perhaps there is a better formal way to explain this. Alright. Review the kana in this word. Which direction? When a user misses a word in English to Japanese, then taps that button. Does it enqueue the component? Kana review is implicit in the act of reading a word written in kana. The user shouldn't know that a word was selected with the intention of repeating a specific kana, i.e. it's invisible to the user. If the user never struggles with any kana, then the app is simply introducing words. If a user struggles with particular kana, then reviewing the kana might take priority. I have not formalized the algorithm for how to weight word review versus kana review, and am open to suggestions. Okay, I assume my fish is getting close to done, and that needs a second to think. So I will go eat some fish and come back. Okay, I'm back. I have eaten my fish. The screen locked, which I'm almost certain interrupts the video recording. I'm like 99% sure. And I don't know if it being paused fixes that, so I restarted. Hopefully I can glue the pieces together and it's not a big deal. Or maybe not. I don't know. I guess we'll see. So let's see. So we were asking this. JP per unit uniqueness enforced at load time. Qualifier equals disambiguation. Kana count is drop and derive. Are they saying we should remove it? Rule 8 is softening. Kana inside words become trackable. Still step 1 blockers, small but real. Per unit file name, your actual file is manifest.json, agents.say, unit.json, or manifest.json. Pick manifest.json. Units isn't the same as a lesson, though. I don't think they need to be named the same if they are serving a different function. Punk. In your hiragana chart, around 0, 1, 2, identical to array index, is priority just authored, ordered, denormalized into each item, or can it disagree? If it can't disagree, drop it and use the array index. If it can, Decide now which wins when they conflict. I'd drop it. I'm going to change priorities of things. I'm going to change priorities of things. I don't like that I don't like that I would have to change an entire file just to move one priority instead of, I don't know, just changing two indices. The priority will matter more during word administration. Right now, I haven't made priorities yet. I think it should tolerate duplicate duplicate priorities, and in that case, it doesn't matter which comes first. And as a curriculum designer, I will, I don't know. As a curriculum designer, I will enforce a one-to-one. But I can reasonably see adding a feature or a workaround in which I override a word's priority, make it appear later, and definitely don't want to force rewriting the entire lesson array, which should be more or less, which should not more or less, which should be static by the time it's on a user's device. Okay. Script. It's hiragana for every item in the hiragana unit. Either it duplicates the unit's declared script, or word units are allowed to make scripts per item. Which is it? Well, it is true that everything in the same directory uses the same script for now. It is theoretically possible I could add another unit later which uses kanji mixed like words which are part kanji and part hiragana, or mixing themed words which might either be hiragana or katakana. The qualifier has no real what? No real functional purpose now. But if it has design purpose or filtering usefulness, I don't think it should be removed. Okay. Keeps the defensive filter. Skip false at time of loading. Log it. Cheap insurance. No downside. Big architectural fork. You're leaning toward per item, comma mode, counters, times right, times wrong, current level, instead of a full review history table. Do it. You lose the ability for any future scheduler to inspect patterns. User only gets things right at night, but you gain tiny exports. Okay. Last N outcomes. Yes, I don't want my tool trying to be too smart. Sometimes systems that think they are smarter than me annoy me, so presumably they might annoy other people too. If a user doesn't want to see a word for whatever reason, there should be a shame-free snooze option available. Which will merely tweak the numbers so they don't see it again. Okay. Consequence. The scheduler inferred at agents.md and changes. Instead of next review history, it becomes something like next review state item state was correct Boolean. Scoring math. Concrete proposal since you asked. Your shape. Interval equals e to the level seconds. Level is float. Ratcheted floor for mature items is good. Specifics you can tune. Correct on time or late. Level plus equals 1.0, correct early. Level plus equals clamp elapsed divided by expected 0.1, 1.0, or if you 5% of the interval, you get 10% of the level. Level kills gaming and kills accidental inflation from I happen to open the app. Wrong. Level 2 levels is 7x interval reduction, softer than reset, harsher than single level. Mature floor track as the 5th counter. If peak level is greater than or equal to approximately 14.66, the 30-day mark. Wrong answer. Floor is 11.37, 24 hours. Before that, floor is 0. Cheap to implement. Nitpick. Yeah. Okay, just natural log of 60. E raised to the 4.09. The starting floor should be 4.09. About a minute. Below that, it just seems like badgering the user. No, that was wrong. When you're initially learning something, then yeah. Okay, mental block protection. Cap an item at 2 presentations per session, regardless of misses. Third time is tomorrow. This lives in the session layer, not the scheduler. Easy to ship. 2 presentations per session works for things the student should know, but it might be overly restrictive for truly new content. I think we should tread lightly during initial learning phase. It could easily take 6 or 7 repetitions in a single, admittedly, session to learn a single word. Whoa, that's a bad typo. Okay, 5 numbers per item. Current level, peak level, times right, times. You said Japanese audio to English, Japanese text to English, Japanese text to Japanese audio. Pronounce what you're reading is not in agents. It replaces or supplements English to Japanese. Produce Japanese from English meaning. It is a Japanese reading and vocabulary program. There are a handful of cards which could be confusing in the English to Japanese category. I have done my best to disambiguate. For example, multiple words meaning but. I have done my best to disambiguate with context, but it is not perfect. And asking a user to remember but versus but, surprised versus but, between sentences is probably a path to annoyance. I'm not absolutely opposed to English to Japanese, but it makes me nervous. End of sentence, but surprise, but between sentences is probably a path to annoyance. I'm not absolutely opposed to English to Japanese, but it makes me nervous. Also, I don't exactly know how different administration should interact with different administration modes should interact with scores, with level increments. I don't know. Maybe they are listed as different units, and the units you have to unlock one mode to move to the next. I am actually worried that having giant bucket is a design mistake. I've been repeating since 2006. I would need psychologically satisfying definitions of buckets in order to proceed, and I don't have that. I don't know how to define that. Unless it were introduction to such and such a common. That is the only one that might work. Okay. Each mode is independent state row. Kana inside word tracking, since you asked for suggestion, a model that keeps it invisible to the user. Grading a word never demotes component kana automatically. Rule 8 stays in spirit for the grading path. Grading a word correctly gives each component kana a weak exposure bump. Yeah, grading a word wrong does nothing automatic, but the reveal screen can offer which kana tripped you up. How do I pronounce this? Mid-card, self-reported miss on that kana. Treat as wrong. This might seem like a nitpick, or this might seem like a nitpick, or unimportant. But the user shouldn't know that asking for help on pronunciation is counted as wrong. This has a discouraging psychological impact on users. Okay, Session Builder gives a small selection boost to words containing currently due kana. A due kana can be satisfied by a word review without the user noticing, which is the invisible behavior you want. Precisely. Suggested edits to agents. Okay, drop review history entity, update scheduler. Alright. Let's make sure everything is decided before you update. I think they need to be named the same if they're serving a different function. I don't like that I would have to change an entire file just to move one priority instead of just changing two. Yeah. I'm glad that it can figure me out because I feel pretty incomprehensible there. I meant editing the JSON for a single priority item. Come on, Agnes. My grandpa always used to say that. I never figured out who Agnes was. It does seem like there's a lot of waiting, though. It's like, come on, you can read 50,000 words in 2 seconds, but my stupid paragraph is tripping you up? I'm just kidding, AI is awesome. I just get impatient really easily. Okay, maybe I will go warm up my coffee. Come on. I scrolled down without resuming the video. I'm sorry, I'm a bad boy. Okay. Okay, stay named differently. Different functions, different names. Priority says tolerate duplicates. Array order tie breaks. Loader should sort priority ascending, array index ascending. For session purposes, curriculum edits become cheap. Script stays per item. Mixed script units. Shame-free snooze. Concrete proposal. First class action available pre-reveal. User opts out before attempting. That's where shame-free lives. Opting out after seeing the answer is different. Probably shouldn't exist. Tap snooze. Card is gone from the session and pushed out. It is reasonable to assume that a user could be frustrated after realizing that they missed a word. Now, if we want to save them from having to hit the wrong button, but we can just silently mark it as wrong and snooze it at the same time. Okay. Long press or secondary if order exposes 3 days, 7 days. A while could be 30 days. Deliberately vague label. Precise number. Zero effect on level, peak level. Yeah. Add a time snoozed as the 6th counter, not to punish, to protect the user. If you see the same item snoozed repeatedly, it respects the user as a grown-up who may have legitimate reasons. Permanently hide is actually an excellent idea. I don't know why I didn't think. But the utility exists for them. If they don't want to see something, then they shouldn't have to. However, there needs to be a muted dialogue somewhere that they can go and undo it. Somewhere in settings. Okay. Alright, mental block cap, revised for new content tolerance. You're right, a flat 2 per session is too aggressive for new learning. Tie it to maturity instead. If peak level is less than 11, item has never survived overnight successfully. No cap. Drill as much as user wants. If it's past 11, you have 2 per session. Once you've proven you know it, the app shouldn't badger you in a session where it's slipped. Level 11, 16.6 hour intervals. Effectively, this item survived at least 1 sleep cycle. That's defensible. You used to know it threshold. Drop it or raise it later based on feel. It's just constant. Help request effect. Not wrong. You're right to push here. Treating a help tap the same as a graded miss is punishing curiosity. It's worse. It's hidden punishment, which is the worst kind. How do I pronounce this? I feel like I said the opposite. Okay. No level change, no counter change, no times wrong increment. This item is not marked as missed anywhere. The nudge is defensible to the user if they ask. You showed interest in this character, so we'll revisit it soon. That framing is honest. You failed is not. The same principle for the reveal screen. Okay, you know what? Even if it misunderstood what I was saying, that might actually be a better suggestion than my original inclination. So, same principle as the reveal screen. Which kana tripped you up? Chips. If you build that, call it something like practice these now. Helpful non-judgmental framing. Tap and cues for practice this session. It can also nudge the kana schedule. Maybe kana levels don't advance unless the user gets them right, but they don't go backward ever. That seems simple enough. I don't know. I'm worried that it is becoming so permissive that we never force the review of a kana. This always happens when too many variables come into play. And there is probably no ideal right solution. You're 30 of 1 of 4 through, so they feel progress even without unit boundaries. Yeah. I like the idea of progression through unit, but mastery has to be levels which are high enough think we do a calculation like this. 60 days level, so natural log of 60 times 24 times 60 times 60 is considered mastery. So we do a sum of min mastery level per level for per level in all cards dot levels and compare that with mastery level times num cards to calculate a percentage. If this confuses the user, we can have a button which explains that you have to review multiple times over a long time period in order to achieve full mastery. Alright. Okay, so given your discomfort with the Indo-Japanese and Euro-Serb mode interactions, I'd argue for the opposite. One item state per user. No direction key. Level reflects, do you know this word, period. The session picks up which mode to present in, ideally rotating or avoiding recent repeats, but it's one schedule per item. Half or a third of the storage. Matches, I don't really think storage is a problem. I mean, we're talking a few hundred kilobytes at most. Well, whatever. Can't specifically target a mode the user is weak in, but if you extract English meaning from Japanese audio, you can nearly always do it for JP text next. My recommendation, one state per item. Ship version 1 with 2 modes, both comprehension. Japanese audio to English, Japanese text to English, session rotates. Yeah. Defer Japanese text to Japanese audio, and until after real user feedback. Adding them later is a data schema change. If we are doing one mode and it's a reading program, then the one mode should be read this. The only exception is the very, very first time it is shown, with the understanding that the user is introduced, not being introduced, not failing to produce the result. There absolutely needs to be a new card mode which doesn't expect the user to already know. The focus is always on the user reading aloud, producing the Japanese audio with their mouth, the English text, is just included for context/decoration in their mind. But obviously, it may have educational utility. That's not what we're drilling them on. Feel free to push back if this is the dumbest idea ever. All right, okay. I think we are close. But answer my last questions before edit. Permanently hide is actually an excellent idea. I don't know why I didn't think of it. The utility exists for them. If they don't want to see something, they shouldn't have to. However, there needs to be a muted dialogue somewhere that they can go and undo it. Somewhere in settings or something. Maybe Kana levels don't advance unless the user gets them right. But they don't go backward ever. That seems simple enough. I'm worried that it's becoming so permissive that we never force the review of a Kana. This always happens when too many variables come into play, and there's probably no ideal right solution. I like the idea of progression through a unit, but mastery has to be levels which are high enough. I do a calculation like this, 60 days level, so natural log is considered mastery. So we do a sum. I hope it doesn't mind me mixing Python style. Okay. If this confuses the user, we can have a question mark button which explains that you have to review multiple times over a long period of time in order to achieve full mastery. If we're doing one mode and it's a reading program, then the one mode should be read this. The only exception is the very, very first time it's shown, with the understanding that the user is being introduced, not failing to produce the result. There absolutely needs to be a new card mode which doesn't expect the user to already know. The focus is always on the user reading aloud, producing the Japanese audio with their mouth. The English text is just included for context/decoration in their mind, but obviously it may have educational utility, but that's not what we're drilling them on. Feel free to push back if this is the dumbest idea ever. I think we are close, but answer my last question. Okay, snooze post-reveal can double as mark wrong plus snooze in one tap. Pre-reveal snooze is grade neutral. Post-reveal snooze records the permanently hide ships as a first-class feature with the unhide listed settings. Hidden items contribute nothing to stats, mastery, or session selection. Effectively deleted from the user's curriculum. I swear I can talk. Reversibly. Help tap is grade neutral, no wrong mark, no counter change. Only effect pull next review at forward if the Kana isn't already due soon. Not dumb. I agree with single mode. Single mode, Japanese text to pronounce aloud with English shown as passive context is a cleaner statement of the app's mission than my 3-mode proposal. Well, in your defense, Mr. Claude, I started with the 3-mode bullshit, so the app is a reading app. The thing being drilled is see Kana produce sound, meaning acquisition happens passively through repeated English exposure and context, which is how vocabulary is actually learned in the wild. Dropping comprehension testing removes 2 modes worth of state and UI for something that was weakly differentiated from the core app. Anyways, holy shit, that was a lot of words to say. Yep. All right. Reveal mechanic. User sees Japanese, reads aloud, taps reveal, audio plays, user self-grades. The audio on reveal is doing real pedagogical work. It's the answer key. Without it, self-grading would be untethered. New card introduction mode. Trigger when times right equals 0 and times wrong equals 0. Item has never been administered. Different UI contract. Everything is shown up front. Everything is shown up front. This also solves the 6 to 7 reps to learn problem indirectly. Introduction mode doesn't count as failed reps, so the session cap, once we set one, only fires after the user's actually been in testing mode for a while, addressing the permissiveness worry. Your concern is right, and there's a clean fix. Level only advances, but next review at can pull forward on wrong. So for the Kana specifically, this preserves mastery credit. Missing a Kana you mastered 3 months ago doesn't erase 3 months of work, but forces reviews soon. Just because the level is high. It does stop punishing lifetime mastery for momentary lapses. Mature items that slip back for a drill, if the user gets them right the next time, they fly back out to the 60-day interval within 1 to 2 correct repetitions. Yeah, because we have high exponential levels, so sure, it might be 3, but whatever. Open question. Does the level never retreats rule only apply to Kana or to words too? I'd say Kana only. Words have more complex failure. Counting Kana, I should clarify. For the purpose of the program, the Kana are treated as words in the Kana unit. But behind the scenes, they also increment some sort of table on administered Kana. So when you are first learning, I need a Kana. Give me a Kana. That's fine. When you don't treat it as code. When you're first learning, we'll increment in the Kana unit. And also behind the scenes, say, I have seen this Kana so many times. When you later encounter words with multiple Kana, then the word skill will increase on the exponential basis, but a counter of multiple Kana will be updated behind the scenes. Only unique Kana should be counted. I believe the current schema allows duplicates, but you shouldn't get multiple increments for a single word. Okay. Truly remaining open. Snooze default duration. Single tap snooze 24, 3 days. Yeah. I think 24-hour snooze is ideal. 24 hours is just long enough that they will see it again soon. Longer than that really seems like they don't want the word. This jives with my experience of repeatedly forgetting the word for dawn, for example, and just wanting it out of the lesson. I don't think we should have longer snoozes. Should require long hold. Help tap, pull forward, pull. What does that say? Is this English? Help tab. Forward pull. Window. How do I pronounce this on a kana scheduled further than X hours out to within X hours? If they needed help with pronouncing a kana, maybe that isn't a miss, but it is certainly not a pass. It is certainly not a pass. A pass means I read this entire word and all the kana without any help or marking it wrong. Level never retreats. Sorry, I was unclear. Unit words in the unit absolutely can drop in level, but not below the floor. But the component kana shouldn't I don't know what the hell I'm trying to say. Shouldn't fall, I guess. At least that was my idea. The problem is, if we have no mechanism for unambiguously marking a component kana as wrong, then what basis would we use for reducing the level? Maybe they don't have a level in the same sense as words do. Only times read without help and times exposed, from which we might be able to infer that a user struggles, but the counts are never going down, or intervals are never being calculated. Okay, post-reveal snooze mechanics. Does it record wrong grade and snooze, or purely snooze with no grade? Wrong grade and snooze. Alright. I think that's enough. Let's update the docs, and if more refinement is required, then we can do it later. Oh, my coffee's lukewarm. Coffee has like an 8-degree window in which it tastes good. Well, some people like iced coffee or coffee, I guess. I don't. I think I saw a meme about that a long time ago. If it's too hot, it burns your tongue. Well, some people like it scorching hot, but they're just insane. And that also like puts you at greater risk for like throat cancer and stuff. So yeah, you shouldn't do that. And then if it's too cold, it's just gross. Wrong grade. And snooze. I don't even know if I should upload this. This was just kind of boring design documents. Yeah, maybe I'll stop and make a new video. I was not expecting this to take this long. Okay, videos. Okay, I was expecting 2. I was not expecting 3. Okay, what is going on? I didn't interrupt it twice, did I? Okay, I'm gonna have to look at this. So this is 23 minutes, 19 minutes. Oh well, whatever. Okay, I'll figure it out. Yeah, I mean, if I have 3 parts, I have 3 parts. It's just I have no recollection of stopping the recording more than once. I thought I stopped the recording exactly once. 10:03, 10:18. It's like, how bad is my memory? All right. A will increment at the Kana unit and also behind the scenes. I have seen this Kana so many times. When you later encounter words with multiple Kana, then the word skill will increase the exponential basis. But a counter of multiple Kana will be updated behind the scenes. Only unique Kana should be counted. I believe the current schema allows duplicates, but you shouldn't get multiple increments for a single word. I think 24-hour snooze is ideal. 24 hours is just long enough to... Wait, this is my... I'm like, hey, I agree with... I agree with Claude here. And it's exactly what I typed. So what was I saying about memory or something? Okay, my God, come on. Come on! Okay, open in... Well, let's close all of our Explorer windows. And then say open in Explorer. And then I can copy it over and then commit the differences. I really like this. I really like using Opus 4.7 to make the big overarching, plan, and then using a simpler LLM to implement the individual changes. And then I can always fall back to a stronger LLM if I get stuck. So, yeah, like I wouldn't have known where to look for that color code inside of inside of the splash screen, but Claude knew. So yeah, I have done probably what would have been weeks worth of work. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it would have taken much longer if I had been doing it by hand. And you know what? You do see the attitude of using AI as a tool changing among developers. I mean, it was just like 18 months ago that people were like, AI, that's dumb. Who would want to use AI? How could that help with anything? And I mean, clearly it can help. It's just the problem comes from blindly trusting it. Okay, this is getting ridiculous. Like, what is it doing? Is it doing line item edits, like hundreds of them? I guess. Okay. Did I give it... I dropped my testing checklist in, right? Yeah. Does this show my token usage? What is that? Get apps and extensions. You know what? I'm good on apps and extensions, but thank you. Thanks for the offer. The biggest lesson that I had from my reading program with my daughter was don't make a reading program. Okay, you probably think that I'm joking or like I'm being a jackass, but the gains that she experienced from using my reading program were gains that she experienced from reading novels. And it's almost like my program was an annoying add-on that just added a frustrating step that needed to be done. But, and I would present that with a huge caveat, she probably wouldn't have been reading the novels aloud to me if I hadn't been trying to use the reading program. And so all of a sudden you come a full circle. And so at the end of the day, the problem was me. I needed an excuse for her to read novels aloud to me. And the excuse was the reading program, which I am now saying had no value. So perhaps the lesson is that humans are idiots. Or maybe not all humans, but just me. All right. Okay, TextStack.md is unchanged. Didn't need a new version. None of the stack decisions moved. High level, what changed? Rule 8 is rewritten. Schema, session, blah, blah, blah. I don't really care. Don't really care. Just give me the damn files. Yeah. Okay, replace. All right. I have updated 3 of the 4 MD files. I don't know if you need to invalidate cache or something behind the scenes. Okay. Please add the following testing requirements. I thought of one. Yeah. Upgrading / installing version does not erase old results. Okay, add the following testing and or requirements. Requirements. Upgrading, installing version does not erase old results. Possible to rename user. Possible to export all users or just one user. Possible to rename user during import. Possible to guess level completion. Guess level completion. So, like, overriding all skills, saying, mark me as 50% done with this unit. Yeah. Okay. Need overflow protection, not projection. Protection for exponential level stuff. If something is level 100, for example, that just means infinite, not that the program should crash. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Tried to edit agents.md and apparently failed. I don't know why it failed. So that's a little bit annoying. Maybe it'll try again. All right. Keep all. I trust you. They're just MD files. I don't actually give a crap. So git add dot git commit dash m update specifications. All right. Okay. Let's go new chat, and I will get a new system. Maybe has some new insights here. So let's come over here. We want all the MD files, not shift control. All right. Okay. I am building an app. Right now it is in the design phase, and while a template exists that loads a splash screen, it has no actual functionality yet. So, in other words, very early in development. I would like to facilitate testing. I would like to facilitate testing. I am not experienced with testing Android apps, though. This is my intuition, and you can tell me if it is a good idea or not. We have an interface layer. The UI, any function which is not strictly UI, about page and splash screen are strictly UI, but fetching any data or user info, etc. The data goes through the abstraction layer. Okay. Then we can have very minimalistic end-to-end tests, which just click a few buttons and make sure pages load. Almost all tests will live in the integration, is that what I called it? Interface layer. Almost all tests will, since this mimics the behavior of the UI anyway, we can bypass it. This will allow for much faster testing. Note, some functionality is time dependent, so we will need a way to specify or override the time for the purposes of testing. Does this sound reasonable? Do you think I should change it? Okay, I'm building an app. Right now it's in the design phase. While a template exists that loads a splash screen, it has no actual functionality yet. In other words, very early in development. I would like to facilitate testing. I'm not experienced with testing Android apps, though. This is my intuition. You can do it. All right, we have an interface layer. You have a very minimalistic end-to-end test, which just click a few buttons and make sure pages load. Almost all tests will live in the interface layer. Since this mimics the behavior of the UI anyway, we can bypass it. This will allow for much faster testing. Notes. Some functionality is time dependent. So we will need a way to specify or override the time for the purpose of testing. Does this sound reasonable? Do you think I should change it? Okay, your core instinct is good. I'm checking your project docs too, so I can tailor the recommendations. The direction is good, with one important adjustment. Most tests should not live in the interface layer. Most tests should live in the pure business layers beneath it. Scheduling, session building, curriculum, test loading cap. What the hell did I just click? Your current project docs already lean the right way. You've defined a layered architecture with the scheduled layer as pure Kotlin and the session layer as business logic, separate from UI. This is exactly the structure. Your current project docs already lean that way. Okay. Here's how I'd refine your proposal. Keep the abstraction boundary, but make it explicit. Your interface layer idea is sound if you mean a boundary that the UI talks to, such as repositories, use cases, or a session engine. That boundary should expose app behavior in UI-shaped terms, but the real logic should be implemented below it in pure Kotlin where possible. In your app, the scheduling layer and session layer are the main places to concentrate testing efforts. Your own plan already calls for pure Kotlin tests for scheduling, which is the right instinct. Use a testing pyramid, not mostly end-to-end. I don't want to use mostly end-to-end, but I do want a few end-to-end. I would not make the interface layer the only major test target. I would not rely on end-to-end for confidence. Better split. That lines up with Android's recommendation that local tests are fast and isolated, while instrumented tests are minimal end-to-end that just clicks a few buttons. Idea is good. That part I would keep. For your current phase, end-to-end should be smoke tests, not deep coverage. App launches, starter screen renders, first real card loads, reveal, shows translation, and plays audio. Your checklist is already written in a way that supports this separation. For time-dependent behavior, inject time everywhere. This is the biggest design rule I'd add now. Do not call system.currentTime millis, instant.now local date, or similar methods inside of scheduling session logic. Inject a clock time source instead. Android's Java Time APIs explicitly support alternate clocks for testing. For your app, I'd make it time dependent. This is this is a real problem that I've seen in real applications before. So this is where my QA intuition comes into play. So I'd make a dependency in at least these places: scheduling, a simpler version, production. That will make your exponential scheduler and do now, do later behavior dramatically easier to test. It is especially important for the rules you defined around early correct answers, mature floors, snooze durations, 12-hour. Okay. These are already encoded, reasonable overall. Practical target for your app would be something like 60 to 70% pure local tests, commonly referred to as unit tests, 20 to 30% DB repository session integration test, 10% compose instrumented smoke test. The ratio is not law, but it fits your architecture well. I can turn this into a concrete testing blueprint for your app with exact folders, test types, and 15 to 20 first tests to write in priority order. One last question before you make new docs. Can I run unit tests and integration tests locally, or do I have to run them on an emulated Android instance? That sounds really annoying. Can I run unit tests and integration tests locally, or do I have to run them on an emulated Android instance? No, you can run a lot of them locally on your normal machine. You only need an emulator or a physical device for the tests that actually depend on the Android runtime UI behavior. Android stocks split these into local JVM tests versus instrumented tests on a device emulator. For your app, this usually breaks down like this. Run locally on your machine, source test. Okay. Okay, I need to get a local test suite up and running, but right now there is nothing to test. Were you going to modify plan.md or make a new plan? I would not rewrite plan.md as the main testing doc. Plan.md is already doing a good job as the build order roadmap, step-by-step delivery, each step ending in something working. Text app testing chain is also serving a different role. My recommendation is create one new doc for a local test strategy and initial setup. Testing strategy, what kinds of tests? Add JUnit, add a fake clock, decide package layout for tests, add one trivial smoke test so the suite runs, define which future layers must stay pure Kotlin so they remain locally testable. Alright, how much of a pain is adding an end-to-end test which clicks? Maybe this is simple enough. It should just be me doing it once or twice before deployment. Alright. Pain level. It's not a huge pain to add one or two basic click buttons tests for a composed app, but it is annoying enough that I would treat them as a thin smoke test, not your main safety net. Android's instrumented UI tests run on physical device or emulator and are slower than local JVM tests. Oh, yeah, no shit. They give higher fidelity. What does that mean? What the hell does that mean? I don't know what that means. For the kind of test you're describing, the mechanics are actually pretty simple. With composed testing, looks like launch a screen, find a node by text or test tag, perform click, assert that some new text. Compose's test APIs are designed for exactly that kind of interaction, and they automatically synchronize with the UI for common actions and assertions, which helps keep simple button click tests from becoming a giant mess. So the honest answer is simple to add, annoying to maintain, worth doing manually only before deployment. Not really, unless the app is tiny and you truly don't mind regressions. Oh, I mind regressions. I would not rely on I'll just click around once or twice before release as the only UI verification. Manual checks are good for polish, but automated smoke tests catch accidental breakage repeatedly and cheaply after the first setup. Android's testing guidance favors a pyramid, many small tests, fewer big UI end-to-end tests, because broad UI tests are more expensive and brittle. For your app, the sweet spot is probably automate 2 to 4 UI smoke tests, app launches, do the rest manually for now. Practical rule: if a test is just tap 2 to 5 things and confirm one obvious result, automate it. If it's long, flaky, automation heavy, or depends on a bunch of unfinished screens, do it manually for now. This is simple enough that you personally can add. Okay. For Common Core specifically, I'd start with exactly these two when you have the first real card flow. Launch, reveal, that's probably the right amount of pain. Alright. User selection will be the first thing I add, not going to a card. So I assume CRUD for a user. Go ahead and make the doc, and I'll add it to my project. Okay, I'm drafting a project-ready markdown file that fits your current state. Almost no functionality yet. User CRUD first, local text first, and a tiny UI smoke layer later. This sucks. What are we writing code? Or having it write code. Okay, let me rephrase. It's not about the code. I want features being added. So all this behind the scenes shit is kind of annoying. But making a robust back-end framework is probably good and will probably result in a higher quality product. And the truth is, I'm planning on making more applications like this. So, you know, getting it right is important. Come on. See, when it's this long, I don't know if I should pause the video. Well, you know what? If I have to think about it, then just do it. Sure, whatever. I did it again. I downloaded the file without first... what the hell am I talking about? I didn't resume the video, so boom. Moving files during the project analysis will not update their usages. The selected elements won't be renamed in non-project files. Proceed anyway. I have no idea what that meant. Hopefully that wasn't important. Okay, git status, git add, git commit, added testing strategy. Okay. This sucks. Okay. Quick question. CRUD implies storage. So I assume integration tests or unit tests will emulate storage while the actual app will have some sort of database. Correct? For CRUD, there's usually two useful test levels. Storage is faked or mocked. You test business rules without a real database. Creating a user update selected user state. Here the app code talks to an interface like user repository, and the test uses fake in-memory implementation. Storage is realistic. You test the repository. Okay, for Android apps, the real app will use room/SQLite for this kind of local data. In tests, you often use either an in-memory room database for integration tests or fake repository for unit tests. So the pattern is usually actual app, room database. Okay. I am going to feed a series of steps to the Gemini free AI thing to implement. give me the steps in order. I can't have a unit test if there is nothing to test yet. So interface layer, create first step in CRUD user. Yeah. And then unit test for create. Something like that. This sounds trivial and laughable, but there isn't currently a testing framework at all, so it might be a bigger step than it sounds. Yeah. Okay, sequence is right. Your project is not laughable. Since you have no test harness yet, create one function plus one test is a real milestone. I'd give Gemini steps in this order. Add local test framework and verify it runs. Add one trivial smoke test, okay. Prove local tests run at all. Define the user domain model. Much later, add UI tests. So for the first few prompts to Gemini should be extremely small. Set up local JUnit tests, improve one test runs, create user model and user repository interface in memory implementation, add unit tests for create user, expand to list users and test it, expand to update, delete users and test them. This is the right order because it gives you a running test harness first. So here's the shortest version of the ordered path. Okay. Much later. Add integration tests for a real storage later. Room, CRUD works. I think that this looks good. I think that this should be a separate video than actually implementing real things. So I'm going to end the video here. I'm going to figure out why there's 3 pieces instead of 2 pieces. It might be as simple as, oh yeah, I did click it off and I just completely forgot. Or maybe it's some other video that has nothing to do with anything. So I will see you later.